Alright, for this lesson we're going to be going over the hierarchy and all the UI objects that make up our chat system. Now to get started, you'll notice that we have this empty game object, which I've called Chat Manager, and this object has the Photon Chat Manager script attached to it. Now this is the root object for our entire chat system, which will make it easy to create a prefab out of this one object that we can then import into any game we want to add a chat system to. Below this object, I have a canvas object and an event system attached to it as children. The canvas object holds all of our UI objects, and the event system makes it so that when we drag this prefab into a new scene, we won't have any problems interacting with our UI objects. I've then set the transform of this panel so that it takes up the bottom right quarter of our screen. Attached to this panel, I have two other children. The first is the join chat button and input field. So you can see that I have a UI button, and then as a child I have a UI input field. This input field is for entering the player's username before they join the chat room, and the join chat button is what will connect the player to the chat room. Now the other child object to our chat panel is what I've called the chat room. This is just a UI image which I've scaled to be inside our chat panel object. As a child to this image, I have a number of UI objects. The first is the to input field. This is the input field where the user can type in a recipient for their private message. We then have the chat input, which is where the user types their message to send. Next, we have a button for sending that message. And then finally, we have a scroll view, which has the scroll rect component attached to it. This object is scaled to all four corners of our chat room object. Our scroll view also has a mask so that the chat will only show up within this window. We then have a child object to our scroll view, which I've called chat display. This is a UI text object, which is also the content for our scroll rect component. You can see that this chat display object is much bigger than the scroll view itself. I also have this object anchored to the bottom of the scroll view, and the vertical alignment for this text object is set to the bottom. This will make it so that as this text object is populated with the conversation of the chat room, all the old messages will be pushed up while the new messages are added to the bottom. And there you have all the UI elements for our chat system. Now if you enjoyed this tutorial, make sure that you give it a like and leave any